This episode is an ESL listening practice for intermediate learners. You will hear a natural conversation with clear pronunciation and everyday English. No tests, no pressure, just listening. Let's start.
Hello and welcome to ESO Listening Practice. I am so happy you've decided to join us today.
It's great to be here.
We are going to be tackling a subject that I honestly believe drives every single language learner absolutely crazy at some point in their journey.
I think crazy is the right word.
Yeah. If you are listening to this, statistically speaking, you are likely at that intermediate or maybe upper intermediate level. You know, the famous B2 plateau that everyone talks about.
That plateau, yes. It feels like a desert. You can see the destination, but you just can't seem to get there.
Exactly. And if you are there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can understand a huge amount of English. You can, watch movies without subtitles, mostly.
Mostly, right? You miss a few things, but you get the gist.
You can read articles online.
Yeah.
You can probably handle yourself in a business meeting or navigate your way through an airport with zero issues. But when it comes to speaking, you just feel stuck.
Stuck is the word I hear most often from students at this level.
You feel like there's this invisible glass wall, preventing you from sounding like the intelligent, complex, funny person you actually are in your native language.
Yes. The real you is trapped behind the English.
Right. In English, you might feel a bit like a child or a simplified, clumsier version of yourself. Today, we're going to break down exactly why that's happening. And I think the answer is going to surprise a lot of you.
I think so too. And it's a pleasure to be here to talk about it. This is a bit of a meta topic for us today, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Well, most learners, especially at that intermediate level, have a very specific belief about how to get better. They think the path forward, the path to breaking that plateau is just more.
More. What do you mean by more?
They think they need more rules. They think they need more complexity. They think they need more rare academic vocabulary. The logic seems to be, I'm intermediate. If I want to become advanced, I need to learn advanced things. They think if they can just master the past perfect continuous or the inverted third conditional.
The dreaded conditionals.
Exactly. They think then they will finally be fluent. Then they will sound like a native speaker.
I mean, that sounds completely logical, doesn't it? If I want to be a master carpenter, I need to learn how to use the most complex, specialized tools.
Right.
If I want to be a Michelin star chef, I need to know how to cook the most complicated, delicate souffle. Why doesn't that logic apply to speaking English?
And that is the million-dollar question. The reason is that language isn't just a body of knowledge, it's a performance skill. And this belief that complexity equals fluency is what we call the illusion of advanced English.
The illusion of advanced English. That sounds a bit ominous. Can you define that for us?
Well, an illusion is something that looks real but isn't. So when you look at a textbook and you see a chapter on mixed conditionals, it looks like the key to fluency.
It looks like the secret code.
It looks like the holy grail. You think, if I put that rule in my head, I'll sound so sophisticated. But the reality is, cramming that rule into your head might actually be the very thing that destroys your fluency.
Wow. Okay, that is a massive statement.
Yeah.
You're essentially saying that studying harder, at least in terms of advanced grammar, might be making us speak worse.
It might be, yes.
That feels like you're turning the entire education system upside down.
In a way, yes. For where our listeners are right now, that intermediate stage complex grammar is very likely the enemy. It's a hidden obstacle. It creates a bottleneck in your brain.
Okay, I really need to understand the mechanics of this. Because, we're trained from day one in school that grammar is the skeleton of the language. If you don't have good grammar, you don't have good English. We aren't suggesting people should just speak in broken English, right? We aren't saying correctness doesn't matter.
No, not at all. Correctness absolutely matters, but we have to distinguish between knowledge and processing.
Knowledge versus processing.
Okay. The illusion is the belief that having a database of rules in your brain automatically translates to speed and flow in your mouth. Think about it this way. You can have a library full of books. That's your grammar knowledge.
Right, a huge library.
But if someone asks you a question and you have to run into the library, find the right book, open it to page 400, find the specific rule, and then run back out to answer.
The moment has passed.
You aren't fluent. You're just knowledgeable. And you're very, very slow.
That is a fantastic image. The librarian frantically running around the aisles while the person at the front desk is just waiting for an answer. That's exactly how it feels sometimes.
It is.
And that actually leads us perfectly into our first major section, which is the why. We need to understand the science here. Why does knowing more rules make us slower? It just seems like having more tools in the toolbox would make you a better builder, not a slower one.
It all comes down to one fundamental concept in psychology and linguistics: cognitive load.
Cognitive load. This is a term we hear in like user interface design and psychology. How does it apply to speaking English?
Well, the human brain is an incredibly powerful processor, perhaps the most powerful in the world, but it has limits. It is not infinite.
Right.
We have a limited amount of RAM, to use a computer analogy. We have limited working memory. And when you are having a conversation, your brain is doing an incredible amount of work simultaneously.
It's juggling multiple balls at once.
Many, many balls.
Let's break that down, because I think we take it for granted. We just open our mouths and talk. But what is actually happening under the hood? What are those balls we're juggling?
Well, in the milliseconds before you even speak, you're running 4 or 5 different programs at once.
Wow.
First, you have the conceptual program. What do I want to say? What is the core meaning I want to convey? That's the foundation.
Yeah, itself.
Right. Then you have the vocabulary search. Which words match this idea? You're scanning your mental dictionary. Then you have the structural build. How do I arrange these words into a sentence that makes sense?
Okay, so meaning, word, sentence structure.
And then you have the motor planning. How do I move my tongue, my lips, and my jaw to make these specific sounds in the right order? The actual physical act of speaking.
And that is just the internal stuff. That's just what is happening inside your own head before a single sound comes out.
Exactly. On top of all that, you have the social layer.
The social layer, right.
You're looking at the person in front of you. You're reading their facial expressions. Are they bored? Are they confused? Are they waiting for their turn to speak?
Mm-hmm.
You're managing the tone, the hierarchy, the social dynamic. Are you being polite enough? Are you being too direct? Is this a joke or a serious comment?
I'm getting stressed just listening to that list.
Yeah.
It really is a multitasking nightmare when you break it down like that.
It is.
And usually in our native language, we don't even notice we're doing it.
That's the key. When you're speaking your native language, most of those processes are automated. They run in the background. You don't think about moving your tongue to make a T sound.
Right.
You don't consciously search for the word table. It's just there instantly. But for the B2 learner, those things are not automatic yet.
Not at all.
For the learner, every single one of those steps requires active, conscious attention. It consumes RAM. Your brain is operating at near maximum capacity just to have a basic interaction about the weather.
So the system is already redlining, the fan is spinning, the computer's getting hot.
Exactly. And this is where the tipping point occurs. You're juggling, meaning the vocabulary, social cues, and pronunciation. Your RAM is at 99%.
Okay.
And then you decide to add another task. You decide to consciously check for a rare grammar rule.
Oh, no.
You stop to ask yourself, wait, is this the subjunctive? Should I use the gerund or the infinitive here?
Is this a hypothetical situation in the past affecting the present, so I need a mixed conditional?
Exactly that. And as soon as you ask that question, you crash the system.
It's too much.
You've exceeded the cognitive load. You literally do not have enough processing power to monitor that complex grammar rule and maintain the flow of conversation. So what happens?
The speech stops. You get that buffering face.
Yes, the buffering phase.
Oh, I know the buffering face so well. The eyes look up to the left, the mouth is slightly open, maybe a little sound comes out like,
And the silence stretches out. In your head, it feels like an eternity.
It feels like a minute long.
And now a new problem starts. Anxiety. You see the other person waiting patiently. You feel the pressure building. Your cortisol spikes.
And cortisol is the stress hormone.
Right. And we know from a lot of research that cortisol actually inhibits memory retrieval. So now you are even less likely to find the word or the grammar rule you need. It's a feedback loop.
It's a death spiral. You try to be perfect, which makes you slow, which makes you anxious, which makes you perform even worse.
That is the harsh reality of it. And it creates speech that is tense. It breaks the natural rhythm. Human conversation is like a game of catch.
Okay.
I throw the ball, you catch it, you throw it back. It's fluid. But if every time I throw you the ball, you stop, you inspect the ball, you clean the ball, and you check the wind direction before throwing it back.
The game is over. The other person gets bored or frustrated. They just walk away.
The connection is broken.
That perfectly explains the frustration so many of our listeners feel. But it brings up a really interesting question about native speakers. We look at native speakers as the goal.
Of course.
And native speakers use complex grammar, right? I mean, I hear conditionals and perfect tenses in movies and on the news all the time.
Yeah.
So how are they doing it if it's so cognitively expensive? Are their brains just...
No, their brains are biologically the same. But here is the crucial insight that I think can change how you view your own learning journey.
Okay.
Native speakers do not think about grammar rules when they speak.
Yeah.
Not ever.
Never. They never pause to check a verb tense.
Never. When a native speaker uses a mixed conditional, for example, if I had known you were coming, I would have baked a cake. They are not making a conscious decision to use the past perfect in the first clause and would have in the second.
They're not diagramming the sentence in their head like a linguist.
Not at all. They don't know what a mixed conditional is. I mean, I'm a language expert and I have to stop and think about it. They're not asking themselves, is this the third conditional or a mixed conditional? They don't care.
So what are they doing? How does it come out so perfectly?
They are thinking in ideas. They have a feeling, a specific instinct that connects a sound pattern to a meaning. They want to express regret about a past situation, and that specific structure just falls out of their mouth.
So it's a chunk.
It's a very big, complex chunk that they've heard and used thousands of times. The grammar is completely invisible to them.
So for a native speaker, grammar is just the vehicle. It's the car they drive to get the idea from point A to point B. But for the learner, the grammar is like an obstacle course they have to run through before they can even get into the car.
That is a great analogy. For natives, the path is clear. For learners who focus on complexity, they're building their own barricades on that path.
And they're the ones putting them there.
They are. And here's the other thing, and this is really, really important for your listeners to hear. Even though native speakers can use complex grammar, they often don't.
Really? I feel like we have this assumption that intelligent, educated native speakers are using these complex structures all the time.
That's a huge misconception, and it's probably caused by textbooks and exams. If you analyze real, unscripted conversations, and I'm talking about recordings of friends talking or even colleagues in a business meeting, the grammar is surprisingly simple.
What do you mean by simple?
It is mostly simple past, present simple, present continuous, and future with going to or will. They rely on these standard high-frequency structures because they value clarity above all else.
So they value being understood over showing off their grammatical knowledge.
100%. In spoken English, clarity is king. Native speakers want to get the idea across as quickly and efficiently as possible.
They're not trying to win a Pulitzer Prize with every sentence they utter.
Not at all. That's for writing. Speaking is different.
I think that is a huge relief to hear. We often have this idea that to sound smart in English, we have to sound like a Victorian novel or a legal contract. We think complexity equals intelligence.
Right.
But you're saying that if native speakers are prioritizing simplicity, then we as learners are chasing a standard that doesn't even really exist in the wild.
You're chasing a ghost, a literary ghost.
A literary ghost, I like that.
Yeah.
I want to dig into this difference between textbook English and real English, because we have a really interesting comparison to look at, sort of taste test of two sentences.
Yes.
I want to see what happens when we actually try to use this complex grammar in a real situation.
Okay, let's do it. I want you to imagine a specific scenario. You're at work. Maybe you miss an important deadline or a meeting.
Okay, been there.
You're explaining yourself to a colleague. It's a slightly tense situation, but it's spoken face to face by the coffee machine.
Okay, I'm in the scene. I'm feeling a little guilty talking to my coworker.
Here is option A. This is the advanced learner attempting to show off their grammar skills. They look their colleague in the eye and say, "Had I been informed earlier, I would have taken appropriate measures."
Wow. Had I been informed earlier? Okay.
Grammatically, it is beautiful. It's a perfectly formed inverted third conditional. It's C1, maybe C2 level stuff.
Yeah.
It would get you full marks on a Cambridge exam.
Absolutely. But how does it make me feel as the listener? It feels cold.
Yeah.
It feels incredibly defensive. It sounds like a lawyer is speaking to me or a robot. It's like you're blaming me.
It feels distant. It creates a wall.
Yeah. Had I been informed, it is very, very stiff. It doesn't invite a response. It just shuts the conversation down. It sounds like I'm reading a formal press release.
Exactly. Now let's look at option B, the simple, natural version. Same situation. You say, if I'd known earlier, I would have done something.
Much better.
Or even simpler. If you told me earlier, I could fixed it.
That feels human. That feels like a guy I can work with. It feels honest and direct.
It's collaborative.
Right. It takes responsibility, in a way, even though you're still saying you didn't know.
Both option A and option B are grammatically correct, but option B is faster, it's clearer, and most importantly, it sounds natural. Option A sounds like a textbook talking to a student. Option B sounds like a human talking to a human.
And that is the trap, isn't it? As a B2 learner, you study that inverted conditional. You spend hours memorizing "had I been," and you feel so proud of it.
As you should. It's difficult.
You want to use it to show, hey, look, I'm good at English. But by actually using it in a normal conversation, you create distance. You fail the social test.
You hit on the key word there, distance. Complex grammar creates emotional distance, and sometimes you want that.
When would you want that?
If you are writing a formal legal report, you want distance. You want objectivity.
Right. You don't write a business contract saying, hey, if you guys mess up, we're going to sue you. You use that formal passive language.
Exactly. In academic writing, formal reports and exams, that is where complex grammar belongs. It has a very important place.
Of course.
In those contexts, you have time to edit, and the reader has time to process. But spoken English is fundamentally different. Speaking is emotional, spontaneous, and interactive. It's a dance.
So when you bring that written academic grammar into a spontaneous emotional interaction, you sound stiff.
Yeah.
Let's define stiff for anyone who might not be 100% sure of that nuance in this context.
When we say someone sounds stiff, we mean they are rigid, lacking flow, uncomfortable, and unnatural.
It's like wearing a tuxedo to a beach barbecue.
That is the perfect metaphor. Absolutely perfect. Wearing a three-piece suit to a casual backyard barbecue.
Right.
You might look good in a formal sense. The suit fits, it's an expensive suit, but you look totally out of place. You look like you're trying way too hard.
You can't relax.
You can't relax, you can't run around, you can't sit on the sand, you're not part of the group.
And everyone else is in shorts and t-shirts having a good time, and you're just standing there looking awkward.
Exactly. When you use overly complex grammar in speaking, you are overdressed for the occasion. It makes you seem nervous or overprepared, like you rehearsed your lines in the mirror for an hour.
And that's so ironic because the goal of the learner is usually to connect with people, to make friends, to do business. But using that stiff language actually creates a barrier.
It does.
It signals, I am not one of you. I am a foreigner studying your language. Whereas the simple language signals, I am here communicating with you as a person.
That's it. Clear sentences equal a stronger message. Simple structures equal better understanding. If you strip away all the complicated decoration, the meaning shines through much more brightly.
This brings us to what we're calling the B2 paradox. It's this strange idea that the more you learn, the harder it gets. I remember feeling this myself when I was learning a second language. At the beginner level, you're just happy to say, where is the bathroom? And be understood. Ignorance is bliss. You don't know what you don't know.
The beginner has no monitor. They're not checking themselves. They just throw words out and hope for the best. But at the intermediate level, you know enough to know how many mistakes you could be making.
Right.
You have developed an error alarm in your brain.
The error alarm. That sounds stressful, just saying it.
It is the curse of knowledge. At the B2 level, you know too much grammar for your own good, at least when it comes to speaking. You're aware of the subjunctive, the conditionals, the passive voice, all of it. And because you know they exist, you feel an obligation to use them.
Or at least to check if you should be using them in that moment.
Precisely. This leads to that vicious cycle of frustration we talked about. You think too much before speaking, you start a sentence, then your brain's error alarm goes off. Wait, that's too simple, use a better structure, so you stop.
You interrupt yourself.
You correct yourself mid-sentence. You say, yesterday I went. Well, I had gone. Actually, I was going to the store when.
Oh, I have been there. It's painful. And by the time you finish the sentence, you are exhausted, and the listener is completely confused. They've lost the thread of the story because you've restarted it 3 times.
That self-correction is deadly for confidence. It creates hesitation. And we aren't talking about a thoughtful pause where you're considering your opinion.
No.
We're talking about that panic pause where you are frantically searching for a grammar rule in your mental library.
It is a blockage, a total blockage.
It is. And the more you try to force complex grammar into your speech, the more you block the flow. It is like trying to run a race while constantly looking down at your feet to make sure you are stepping correctly.
You are going to trip.
You are absolutely going to trip. You have to look up, look at the finish line, and trust your legs.
I love that advice. Look up and trust your legs. So we have established the problem very, very clearly. This obsession with complex grammar is the enemy of fluency for the B2 learner.
It is.
It increases cognitive load. It creates stiffness, and it causes anxiety and hesitation. So let's pivot to the solution. Because we can't just tell our listeners, stop learning. That's not the message.
No, absolutely not. We are not saying stop learning. That would be terrible advice.
We need a new focus. If we shouldn't be spending our time studying these complex rules for speaking, what should we be doing? Where should we direct that energy?
We need to shift the focus from complexity to automaticity.
Complexity to automaticity.
Okay, we're not saying stop learning. We're saying learn different things. If you want to speak fluently and naturally, there are 3 specific, very practical strategies you need to adopt.
Okay, lay them on us. What is strategy number 1?
Strategy number 1 is master high-frequency structures.
High-frequency structures.
Yeah.
Now, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Please.
Does that just mean basic English? Because I feel like a lot of B2 learners hear the word basic and they recoil. They have an ego about it. They don't want to sound like a beginner again.
That is a huge, huge misunderstanding. High frequency does not mean beginner. It means essential.
Okay.
These are the sentence patterns that are used every single day by everyone, from the guy selling you coffee in the morning to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company in a boardroom.
Can you give us some specific examples of what you mean by a high-frequency structure?
Absolutely. Think about phrases like, I think that, it depends on, the thing is, you need to make sure too. These sound simple, right?
Very simple. Almost too simple.
But they are the operational code of the English language. They are the glue that holds complex conversations together. When you listen to how executives speak in boardrooms, they aren't using the past perfect continuous. They are saying things like, okay, the thing is, we need to make sure we hit our numbers this quarter.
The thing is, it's actually a great example. It sounds so casual, so simple, but it's a real power phrase. It signals, hey, pay attention. I'm about to get to the core of the problem.
It is. It frames the entire sentence. And because these structures are so high frequency, they need to be completely automatic. You shouldn't have to think about the grammar of it depends on. You shouldn't be wondering, is it depends of or depends on? That has to be zero thought. It should just roll off your tongue as one single sound.
So the goal is to drill these simple but essential phrases until they are absolute muscle memory.
Exactly. When you have a toolkit of these high-frequency structures that you can use without thinking, you free up that precious RAM we talked about earlier.
You clear up processing power.
You free up your brain to focus on the message, not the mechanics. You can focus on persuading your boss or telling a funny story or making a joke because the grammar is taking care of itself. It's on autopilot.
Okay, so strategy number 1 is master high-frequency structures. Don't look down on them. Own them. What is strategy number 2?
Strategy number 2 is the secret weapon of native speakers. Chunks.
Chunks. Okay, that sounds a bit unappealing, but tell us what it means in linguistics.
It means we need to stop looking at English as a collection of individual words, like tiny little Lego bricks that we have to glue together with grammar rules every single time we speak. Native speakers don't build from scratch every time. They use prefabricated sections. They speak in chunks.
Give us a visualization of this. How does it work?
Okay, think about the phrase, to be honest. In a dictionary, that's 3 separate words. To, be, honest. A learner might try to assemble them, they think. Preposition to, verb be, adjective honest.
Right. They're assembling the bricks one by one, checking the instructions.
But when a native speaker says it, they don't think of it as 3 words. They process it as one single unit of meaning. It's almost one sound. TBH, honest.
TBH, honest. Yeah, it just blurs together. It has a specific melody to it.
Exactly. Or take a longer one. Like at the end of the day, that's 6 words. That's a lot to process.
Right.
But to a native, it's just one block. If you start a sentence with a chunk like, well, to be honest with you, that takes about 2 seconds to say out loud.
Right, about that.
In those 2 seconds, your mouth is moving on autopilot. You don't have to think about those words at all. So while your mouth is saying, well, to be honest with you, your brain is using those 2 free seconds to plan the next part of the sentence, the important part.
So it's a fluency hack. It's a mental buffer.
It is. It's like when a video buffers, but you're doing it verbally and nobody notices.
That is genius. To the listener, you just sound incredibly fluent because there is no silence. You're speaking continuously. But on the inside, you're actually resting your brain.
Exactly. And because it's a fixed phrase, a chunk, you know it's 100% grammatically correct. You don't have to stress about it. You just plug and play.
I love that. Plug and play. So instead of memorizing lists of isolated vocabulary words, learners should be harvesting these chunks when they listen or read.
Yes. When you watch Netflix, don't just write down cool words. Listen for these multi-word strings that happen really fast. What do you mean becomes what I mean. Learn the whole chunk.
Okay, so we have strategy 1, high-frequency structures, and strategy 2, chunks. What is the third and final strategy?
The third strategy is a mindset shift, and this might be the hardest one for a lot of our perfectionist listeners. We need to actively choose fluency over perfection.
Fluency over perfection. That is much easier said than done.
It is. It requires a conscious effort. We need to redefine what fluency actually means. For many learners, the subconscious definition of fluency is speaking with 0 mistakes.
Yeah. If I make a mistake, I have failed. I am not fluent. That's the feeling.
We need to take that definition and throw it directly in the trash. It is toxic. It doesn't help. It just stops you from speaking.
Okay, it's gone. So what is the new, healthier definition?
The new definition of fluency is simply this: speaking smoothly, not stopping too often, and being understood. Fluency equals communication flow. That is it. The end.
So if I mess up a preposition along the way,
Keep going.
if I use the wrong verb tense but the context makes my meaning clear,
Keep going. If you make a mistake but the conversation continues and the other person is smiling and nodding, you are fluent. You are winning at English.
that is such a liberating idea. I think we forget that even native speakers make mistakes all the time.
Constantly.
We stutter. We restart sentences. We use the wrong word sometimes. I probably do it on this show all the time.
We both do. But we don't stop and apologize. We don't say, oh, excuse me, listeners, I used the wrong relative clause just then. We just plow through. We prioritize the flow and the message.
And there's a connection here back to simplicity, isn't there?
Yes. This is the beautiful positive spiral that you can create for yourself. If you simplify your grammar, if you stick to the high-frequency structures and chunks, you will naturally make fewer mistakes.
Right. It is much harder to crash a bicycle than a fighter jet.
Exactly. If you stop trying to use the past perfect, continuous, inverted conditional, and you just use the simple past, your error rate drops to almost 0.
And when you make fewer mistakes,
You feel more confident. More confidence leads to a better, smoother flow. And that better flow is fluency. You create it yourself.
it really is a complete reversal of the typical student mindset. Instead of more complexity equals better, it's more clarity and simplicity equals better.
Simplicity creates the perfect environment for fluency to happen.
So we're coming towards the end of our conversation here, and I just want to recap this new mindset for our B2 listeners, because this is really a call to action, isn't it?
It is. It's a new philosophy for speaking.
We're telling you, stop trying to sound like a textbook. Stop trying to sound like a lawyer giving a statement. Use the grammar you already control. You don't need new grammar to be fluent.
You don't.
You need to use the old grammar better, faster, and more automatically.
You need to trust what you have. It's about building confidence in what you already know, rather than creating anxiety about what you don't know yet.
I can imagine some people listening might still be skeptical. They might be thinking, but if I speak simply, won't people think I'm stupid? Won't they think my English is bad?
That is the core fear. I understand it completely, but let me give you one golden question. This is the only metric that truly matters.
Okay.
Ask yourself this after a conversation. Can people understand me easily?
Can people understand me easily? Not, did I use the third conditional?
No. If the answer is yes, they understood me easily, then you are intelligent, you are effective, you are articulate. Think about the smartest people you know, the best communicators. Do they use big, confusing words and complicated sentences? Or do they have a gift for explaining complex ideas in a very simple, clear way?
It is always the latter. The true genius is the one who can explain quantum physics to a 5-year-old.
Exactly. Be that person. Don't use English to hide behind complexity. Use it to connect with people.
I think that is the perfect message to end on. We need to remember that spoken English loves simplicity. It rewards clarity. It doesn't want to be complicated.
It really doesn't. English is a tool, not a test. We spend so many years in school treating it like a test where we get more points for higher difficulty, but in real life, it's a tool like a hammer or a screwdriver.
And nobody cares how shiny or complicated your hammer is. They just care if you can drive the nail into the wall.
Precisely. If you have a fancy electric drill with 100 different settings, but you don't know how to turn it on, it's useless. A simple, reliable screwdriver that you know how to use effectively will build the furniture much, much faster.
Be the simple screwdriver, not the confusing power tool. I Absolutely love that. Thank you so much for breaking this down for us today. It has been a real eye-opener, and I hope our listeners feel a weight lifted off their shoulders.
I hope so too.
You don't need to study more complex rules to get better at speaking. You just need to trust what you already know.
Trust what you know, focus on clarity, and try to enjoy the conversation.
Thanks for listening to ESL Listening Practice. Go out there, keep it simple, and we will see you next time.